So Sharon Farsijiani, she's a former reporter and anchor, television anchor turned author. She was born in Tehran, raised in Brooklyn, New York. Her family returned to Iran when she was a teenager, exposing basically someone who grew up in the United States of America back to Iran and Iranian culture. As a westernized female, she experienced culture shock going back to her home country, and she has written in her new memoir, Shaming My Red Lips, all about her experiences. Sharon Farsijiani, how are you? And welcome to Bradshaw Live. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So what is your story really about, this memoir? Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So the memoir is about when I was taken back to Iran at the age of 16 and really viewed Iran and all the cultural elements, all the educational elements, and the country itself from a lens of a Brooklynized teenager.
Now, you grew up in Brooklyn. When did you come to Brooklyn?
We came to Brooklyn when I was 3 years old.
All right, so that was basically the only country you knew when you moved back to Iran. And what year was this that you moved back to Iran?
It was around 97, 96.
Okay, so they were definitely, and they still are, you know, a very rigid society. They're certainly not westernized in any way, shape, or form.
No.
You know? What was it like, culture shock, being a westernized teenager, being from, you know, the hood in Brooklyn, you know, doing your thing, to all of a sudden now you go back to Iran? Tell us how that was like, and why did that all happen?
Well, I could tell you that it was a complete culture shock, to say the least. You know, being brought up in Brooklyn, you're exposed to, you know, especially Bensonhurst, Brooklyn,
Right.
You know, all Italian and Jewish and, you know, the whole Brooklyn vibe.
Right.
And then when you go back to Tehran, you know, a lot of the religious, cultural elements that kind of tied together in this society was a big question mark for me. And for example, when we arrived, you know, I was okay with, you know, kissing my male cousins. You know, when you're in the airport, you kiss them.
Right.
But it's kind of, you have to be a little bit more cautious when you're doing that, because there is an Islamic element to it. It is an Islamic country, and you have to understand them. And for me, I didn't see anything wrong with that. But later on, I learned that you shouldn't really even hug your cousins that are male.
Tell me the taboos that you couldn't do in Iran that you're able to do in Brooklyn.
Well, first of all, in Brooklyn, I always went bike riding to Coney Island and back.
Right.
So I used to always go with my girlfriends, and that is something that is not allowed on the streets of Tehran for females.
Males can ride a bicycle, but females can't.
Females can, but there's a park, and there's a specific portion of the park that's for females. So they could ride basically there, but we can't ride like in the streets or anything like that. So that was one thing. Another thing is that, you know, for me, you know, of course my father was very strict, but the whole religious element of the guy situation and really not having any relationship or not going to parties where there's guys, and, you know, it's a forbidden relationship if you're not married. So that I was really taken back from that part, that, you know, why can't...
So basically, teenage boys and teenage girls couldn't mingle.
Absolutely
there was no
not.
mingling.
And no.
What would happen if there was mingling? What would happen? And who catches you?
Well, in the streets, there's two types of cops. There's the NYPD. I'm just hypothetically speaking.
Right, your regular cops like the NYPD.
And then there's the PD that's the religious PD. And those religious PD people, they eye you, and they see if there's illegal activity going on under the Islamic religious element. They will basically come up to you and say, you know, either, you know, some of them were nice,
Right.
really, you know, either stop it, or, you know, if you do it again, then we'll take, and some of them just have no mercy. They're just like, come down to the station with us.
Did you ever get pulled down to the station for violating religious laws?
I got pulled down once, and via that encounter, I still, my Farsi was on crutches, so I didn't understand what she was saying when she was saying it to my face. And number two, I didn't know why she was pointing me in the direction of the van to get in the van.
What did she claim that you did wrong?
I was flirting with a guy. There's this big street, and imagine First Avenue, and then there's one way and then the other way, right?
Okay.
So there's all these like, and it's usually in Upper Tehran.
Right.
So they get in their cars, you know, patrol, whatever, and then, you know, if you're going down the street and this individual is going up the street, you kind of look at each other, and then, you know, if
so the boys are in one car, girls are in another car, and you go literally slowly by each other at like snail space, and then you kind of eye each other.
You kind of eye each other, and sometimes one may say a flirtatious sentence,
Right.
the other one might say one, and then if the two cars like it, they either chase each other and have a little fun, or
Right.
they say, hey, why don't you call me, or
Right.
something like that. But the most important element here is that you have to be careful, because the religious cops know where
They
this
know,
is.
and they know what it's.
They
When people
know
are
about the
driving
street.
slowly, right?
There's
Right.
only 2 or 3 streets in
this
Tehran that have
happens.
this activity.
Right.
Right. So they suddenly pop out, and you're someone like me that has no idea what's happening, and my cousin is telling you to him, just drive out of here. Just, you don't want to get caught. Just drive. I said, but why do I have to drive? She's like, just put it on 80 miles per hour right now. You just have to get out into the highway and kind of like
Right.
run.
Floor it and get out of town. You looked at a boy run, basically.
Yeah, and it was very innocent. And all the girls, they're so innocent when this is done. It's just, part of the fun of growing up.
Sure.
And, nothing is really bad or out of context when they're doing it. And in addition to that, there's no like restaurant, or there's no little party or bar
Hang out,
or like a
right.
sports club. Right.
You
that
do
you
it
can
from
hang
car
out
to
and
car.
kind of, you do it from car to car, and then you have to keep like a third eye watching for the religious cops.
So one day you got caught doing this, looking at a boy in a car going down the street. What happened when you got arrested?
Yeah. They kind of tell me to pull over, so I pull over, and then, she says, what were you doing talking with this individual? Long story short, they took me down to the station, and they were going to put me in a cell. You get a call and stuff. So I called my dad, and he kind of bailed me out. But when we got home, my father had a little talk with me that you have to understand, you're in an Islamic country, and there are rules in this country, and you have to abide by them when in public, at least.
Is it a situation where your father has to literally bribe the cop, or it's like who you know, wink, wink, or you just got like,
No, it's bribe.
It's a
the
bribe.
Country is. Yes, it's definitely a bribe.
How's alcohol and drugs there? I mean, obviously, kids in America, it's no shock to anybody. They're smoking weed, they're drinking alcohol. What happens in Iran,
Well, I can tell you this, Brad, that when you do get to the legal age, alcohol, cigarettes, everybody smokes in streets and stuff.
Right.
But that's not a big deal. But when you come to alcohol is not an Islamic drink. It's alcohol is not accepted in that religion.
Right.
And so it's not sold within any of the stores. So it's an underground thing that's traded. So people, obviously, they have alcohol in their house, but there are absolutely no restaurants that serve any kind of wine, liquor, hard liquor, anything that you could possibly imagine. That's not allowed.
So somewhere in Iran is like Al Capone, and he's bootlegging alcohol all over the place, basically, right?
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah. So there's like a black market. Really.
Right.
There's a black market, and everybody, all my friends, everybody had like a cellar.
So even the teenagers, they still figure out a way to have a beer or a vodka or whatever it may be.
Of course.
Yeah. It's like the secret that everybody knows but nobody talks about.
Exactly right. Tehran is gorgeous, beautiful, but underneath Tehran there is another Tehran, and that's called the little New York City of Tehran.
Right.
And everything, there's a lot of underground stuff, and it's a shame because you have to kind of wear a mask, you have to be someone on the public, and you have to be someone else. Ultimately, everybody wants to be free in choosing what they want to worship or what they want to wear outside. If anybody wants to be religious, that's fine. They could put it on, but if somebody like me, that I don't want to put on a scarf and go outside, I don't have to be forced to do it.
How long have you been back in the United States?
I went there for someone's wedding in 2010.
Okay.
That person was very dear that I went, because I really do not want to return. Mm-hmm. And I always have this fear that every time I return, because I'm very outspoken and I do say my opinion.
That maybe they'll put you in jail.
Well, not only that, but they'll bother me.
Right.
Sometimes they won't even put you, they'll just like bug you, and they'll cause you problems for no reason.
What percentage of the 20 to 40-year-olds, let's put it, your generation of people, do you believe would like to see change? Is it a majority? Because we only see in the United States what the U.S. government feeds us in terms of what's going on in Iran. And I'm just interested that you actually live there as an American citizen, and how do you view it as seeing it in your own eyes? What percentage is really A, anti-American, and B, what percentage really wants to live the way that they're living right now?
One is that as a Brooklynized teenager, when I went to Iran, I was the same way. I was fed American media and so forth. But when I went to Iran, I found one of the most beautiful and loving people that have really, really taken me in, embraced me, and showed me the meaning of what it means to have love and family and this rich, rich culture around you. Not only that portion, so rich and so kind and so hospitable, but also they're not anti-America at all. In fact, they're good people and they would like to have good relationship. I don't really get into politics, but the majority of the ones that I feel that would really want change, and I'm hoping that one day this could be implemented, is that, given the females the freedom to really choose how the religion they want to be and really not forced to do it. For example, right now in Iran, a lot of females are bothered by the fact, that they have to wear scarves, and they're trying to kind of, speak their minds. And they always do this and they always get shut down. And it really breaks my heart because they have so much potential. That particular group, I think they definitely want to see some changes.
You think a majority of women want change? Would you say that as an accurate or not an accurate statement?
You have the super Islamic woman, and it's okay, and it's, if they want to wear a burqa from head to toe, that's okay. But there's also people my age. You know what? I could talk for people my age. The ones that are my age, similar, to what we're seeing on the screen right now, they really want to just be themselves and live the way they want. The 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds that have gotten to the point to form an opinion and decide which way they want to go.
Your parents brought you here when you were 3 years old, and you ended up back in Iran 16 to 23, and that's what this book is about. How did you end up back in Iran, basically as an American citizen?
Everything about me was so Americanized. One day I think my dad woke up and said, "Oh my God, you are so white, and we need to go back to the mothership country," because I was very, very Americanized. And my father, he really wanted me to get in touch with the Iranian culture. So we decided to go back. And, my parents, at the end of the day, they're human. So they didn't know the complications that this move would bring. So we went back in order for me to experience my Iranian heritage and the culture. And it was great because I did experience all of that.
Your father's a religious man?
No.
No. He's just a proud Iranian.
All of my family. They're very proud Iranians.
What were some of the complications? And I assume you wrote about this all in your book, Shaming My Red Lips.
I think the whole education part of it and the whole culture, religious part of it. And Arabic is the second language in Iran. I had no understanding of either of these. So I slowly learned Arabic because it's part of the entry exam to the university. And then the second thing was the religious and cultural part, how everything is so intertwined together that I can't be myself without being a very good Islamic female.
Did you have fights with your parents and say, "Dad, why'd you bring me here? I hate you"?
When things really, when the going really got tough, I said, "Really, you bring me back to this country and what do you expect? Do you expect me to follow all the rules? I don't even understand half of the rules." I was forced to pray in school. And I said, "I don't want to pray," because when you pray, don't get me wrong, I respect Muslims praying, but I didn't understand even the words I was saying while I was praying. So in school, they said, "No, ma'am, you have to pray." So they put me in the prayer line. Mind you, I'm like mumbling words that I don't understand. Standing up, and I didn't understand anything. There are some reasons why you are forfeited, so you're okay with not praying, and those are female biological things.
Right.
And then, if you're encountering that, you're saying, okay, then you don't have to pray for this week.
Because it's that time of month.
Right. And then I kept using that excuse for like 2 months. And they're like, okay, ma'am, you have health problems.
Yes. And you made it through college, University of Tehran. How did you make a living there?
I was a reporter for Channel 6. I was very young, so I was still living with my parents. I was first a reporter, then I was an anchor. I was the late night talk show host for a program they had there, and I was also a game show host for Channel 4 for a segment they were doing. Because I was this young, girl that spoke really fluent English, they took me into the English section, and I kept getting promoted and I kept making money here and there, and I was only 19 years old, 19, 20 years old. That's how I was making money until they fired me.
Why'd they fire you?
Again, things that I wasn't aware of, but you're supposed to follow Islamic regulation when you're at work, which I always did, but you're also supposed to be a figure that follows Islamic rules and regulation outside in public. And, later on we found out that they had been going to the neighbors and asking, how does this girl dress? Obviously at work I wear my wimple and I cover my hair. But when I'm going out to university or going out with my girlfriends, I just wear my scarf. And usually my scarf is falling down my head. I never this. Right, exactly.
Right. Basically, the religious police basically go around to the neighbors to find dirt on you that you're not following religious custom or religious protocol.
Because I was the I was the evening news anchor and I was the face of the news at night. They wanted to make sure I fit into the Islamic portion of it when I'm outside too. So yeah, they were doing that stuff, yeah.
So now, looking at you right now, obviously you don't have the headscarf on, so you would be in violation. Okay, you have lipstick on. That would put you in violation as well. Are you allowed to wear any makeup?
Very minimal. Very minimal. I was body searched before I entered the station when I went to work, and I was not allowed to wear lipstick, period. I could wear a little bit foundation. Females there wore mascara, maybe a little eyeliner, a little foundation, but anything that shows or anything that grabs attention, it will grab the attention of the religious police too. Or your makeup will be taken away, just like mine was taken away on various occasions. I think I lost all my mascara and all my glitters and lip gloss while I was going to work.
Oh my gosh. Is that when you decided to come back to New York, to the United States of America? And how did you go about doing it? I assume your family had a lot of influence on you remaining in Iran and you didn't want to stay there.
No, well, when I got fired, I went down a rabbit hole of depression. I was escorted out of the building just for being myself. And that really hurt me. You know, being a teenager that grew up here, I never did anything wrong. I was just being my complete self. And really within that innocence, they got my badge from me. They escorted me out of a building as if I was a criminal. I didn't come out of my room, cried until there was no more tears to cry. I was watching The Three Stooges, Home Alone, and Tango and Cash for 1 week.
Are you allowed to watch American movies and TV? How do you get that?
Yeah. Well, I bought the stuff when I moved. And that was the only thing that kept me sane in that area, because it was the only way that I was connected to some place where I called home, where I could be myself. So I kept watching reruns. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Basically, it was, a little cage that I had made for myself. My family and my mom and dad were my only circle. And at that point, I was so angry with my parents for bringing me here and for putting me in, was I Iranian? Was I American? I had a complete loss of identity at that point. After a week, my father took me to a psychiatrist, and she had told my dad that she's so westernized that she's not going to survive in this culture.
Did you find that your friends and family had similar problems, or was this really unique to you because you grew up in the United States of America and then came back into what is basically this foreign culture that you weren't aware of?
I'm sure they had similar problems. For me, it's a little bit more intense because I kept saying why. And I kept saying my why loud and clear so everybody, including the authorities, would hear it. When they approached me to throw me in the van, I said, why? I don't want to go in your van. And then she pushed me, you have to go in the van.
Right.
And I said, I haven't done anything wrong. But everybody kind of takes it in because they don't want to deal with it or they're fearful. I didn't even know that if I spoke my mind, what consequences it would have.
Right.
So I just spoke it because I was raised here, and here you speak your mind. You stand up for yourself.
Now, do you consider yourself American, Iranian, Persian American? How do you describe yourself? Because you've lived both lives.
I consider myself a very proud Iranian American, someone that's exactly 50-50. Initially, when I went to Iran, I couldn't call Iran home, but now I do call it home just because of the affection that the people in my family, and it's just a gorgeous country. I just don't, again, agree with the religious layer of it.
Right.
I call here home too. I mean, it's where I grew up. I went to elementary school in Brooklyn, Long Island.
How did the book come about that you wanted to write your memoirs about your life in Iran? How did that come about?
When I came back to the States, it really, really angered me what had happened, that all the girls there, they couldn't express themselves. I started writing a book on my life to see if I could not only express myself, but also to point to a situation that a lot of females were having, such as myself there. And that was the reason why I decided to go all out and write it as a memoir and really share it, to not only say there's always light at the end of the tunnel, but being authentic and being your true self is really, really what life is all about, and how we really progress.
How long did it take you to write the book?
4 years.
Wow. Were parts of your story harder to put on paper because those were the parts that were more emotional or a bigger struggle for you?
Absolutely. The hardest part was when I had arguments with my father and mother on why you brought me to this country, and those are the parts that I broke down while I was writing it. Now we're best friends, but at the time I was so upset that I was in this country.
Can we buy this book?
On Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you feel you've reached your American dream?
I feel I've reached my Iranian American dream. I feel that I've reached living my potential, finding that peace as an immigrant on both sides, as in Iran and the US, and also at the end helping other people, which I think it's the ultimate goal for any human being.
Of course.
So I've lived my human being Iranian American dream. I am living that dream, and I will continue on living that dream.
All right. Well, Sharon Farsijiani, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.